Welcome, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. So yeah, we're club night tonight. It's got a pretty cool one. First off is to let you know that we are still kind of open. We obviously we can't have the shop, we can't have you in here, but what we can have is old Yuji here is keen to do plenty of servicing. So if you need your regs, BCs, and tanks doing, he's raring to go. He's if that means taking your kit apart, and these are just the random bits we found under the bench when we're at lockdown. So if you've got any parts missing, we've got a bit of a lost and found section that we'd like you to come and have a look at. That's the first shit joke. You can mark them up. Next is obviously the website as well. That's open 24/7. We are doing click and collect.
It's me again.
That's Darren Lee again. Darren Lee, we're gonna have to pay you some fees for this. Yeah, so we've got click and collect, but also free shipping over $30. So yeah, take advantage of that. We just need something to do for Kate, Anna, and myself. It's pretty quiet at the moment. Now, if we're talking about retail, a couple of things that have come up since we were locked down in August. We now have all the colours of the rainbow on the hose situation. So I think we've got 11 colours, and then regular
orange.
Got orange, yeah, got orange, just above the pink. We've got so heaps of different sizes. So we're doing them as special order. So we have got a couple of orders going out real soon. So if you do fancy pimping yourself out, please do so. Just give us a shout. Next is the 2021 winter collection for Thalmont stuff. It's leaving the UK tomorrow, basically overnight, and so that should be here next week. So keep an eye out for that. There's some really cool designs, and including a really nice ocean positive hoodie there. So that's going to be very limited edition. We've just ordered real small numbers, and so first in, best dressed. The Hammerhead Shark Polo, I think, is going to be a winner, and we also, fittingly for tonight's presentation, if you look on the top right t-shirt, it's actually a cave dweller. So it's aimed at the old cave divers there. One thing you can do in this lockdown is, if you wanted to look as good as these fine gentlemen and lady, is get a 4th Thalmont Argonaut. We can do a contactless made to measure using the biomap system. And just take in that picture. They're just great looking people. I think that was the previous COVID trip, wasn't it? We got into trouble because we should have been 2 meters apart, wasn't it? But
Simo, take a look at the boat, mate. Did you make all the DUI owners on the boat?
Yeah. All the DUI. Well, we've got another picture of all the DUI people for different presentations. So yeah. And of course, scooters. They've been incredibly popular this last couple of months. So all of these black tips came in and they're all gone out now. So they're all sold, but we do have a few more coming in. So I think there's either 1 or 2 that aren't accounted for, and they'll be here in like 6 weeks or so. So if you do want one, Megan, just let me know. And I think, Darren, have you got a scooter yet?
On order, mate.
Okay, that's an order. Right, I've got that down. Awesome. So Rob, the happy plumber, obviously picked us up.
We could ask what the durability and burn time is. Steve, do you know what the duration
many hours, many hours, and many kilometers.
We'll save the
tried and tested.
The story can come out another time maybe, but
yeah, only in Mount Gambier.
They do go well. And then next upcoming trip, so obviously this is a bit of a tricky one. We can't really do much at the moment, but we do have everything that we possibly can book. We are booking. So November, December, we've got midweek liverboards, and we've got a bit of everything really. So just keep an eye on the site for domestic trips. And internationals, we have Maldives. We're pretty confident that's going to go next August. That's a liverboard. Obviously, Mount Gambier, which we're going to talk about later on as well, is probably much closer, but we do have a Volley Fiji trip now. We're in discussions with them, just choosing some dates. So, international trips, domestic trips, we're obviously the most exciting one we're going to hear about a bit later. One thing that we are going to be doing, though, is whilst we are still locked down, is there's a couple of courses we can do online. Kate's put together, she's going to start doing some online fish ID and what's the part of it called? marine ecology courses, which you can do online, and then just kind of finish off when you do a shore dive at Goat Island or something. And then also one that we can now do is gas blender. Now it's a part theory, part practical, but if there's any of you who are kind of keen to get a gas blender or just interested in how it's done, then just hit us up, because we'll start doing that as well. And then coming towards the end of mine, the final thing is just to, if you haven't already know, we've kind of made it our policy here that we've made a real strong stance that we're only going to train people who are double vaccinated, and also on trips as well. It's a global dive policy, and that we're going to kind of make sure that's passed on to the boats as well. So there's two sides to it. One is, if you aren't vaccinated, we'd like to give you a friendly nudge to get vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, it just means that you can be sure that the people on the boats and the trips with you are also in that same situation. So we've kind of stuck our heads out of the sand and made it public. Thank you everyone who's been really positive with your feedback. We've actually had no negative feedback from it, or if we have, it's people who haven't, they're just probably not coming to our shop anymore, which is fine. But no, I think it's really important to keep each other safe, and as divers, we just don't want to be catching COVID if we can help it. So it's really to protect my staff and my customers, which is really all we bother about. So, and then finally, so I took this in Mount Gambier 2 years ago. So this is, so this really just leads me on nicely to our main head speaker tonight. We've got 3 guys all the way from Australia and the UK. And so I have to be honest, this isn't Mount Gambier. This was the caves at Lake Papuki. For those of you who've been in the lake,
you get through the restriction.
Yeah, well, when you're on side mount, you can get through. So yeah, I wanted to show this because really as a reminder because this is obviously one of Pete Mez's amazing images that is hung up in the shop massively, and it just reminds you of the dive shop, or it reminds me of the dive shop. So I look at it every single day. So without further ado, I thank you for a little bit of time there. I'm now going to hand over the reins, as it were, to Darren.
I just want to say a shout out to everybody who hasn't actually been to Fiji and Volley. I went there, was it 2 years ago? And I wasn't expecting much at all. And even the house reefs are bloody awesome, eh? They really are quality. And then obviously Blythe Channel and all the rest of it it's worth a trip to go there. So those of you who haven't been to Volley yet, it's a lot of fun too. A few little holes that you got to watch out for. People tend to fall in them. But apart from that, it's just an incredible place.
Absolutely. Okay, so Darren, you have dive experience. First of all, I'd like to introduce the guys. So Darren from Dive Experience over in the Mount, he's going to be heading the trip. We're going to be Sam's going to be teaching us, and Josh is going to give us somewhere to stay. So the guys have got a bit of a presentation. So we're going to hand over to you to share your screens, and off over to you.
Yeah, good on you. I'll be doing the talking. I'm Darren. I'll introduce the guys. We've got Sam that's going to be hitting up the training. Some of you might already know Sam from the previous trip. Myself, Josh and Sam, we're the guys that work for the guys for decades between us. So we've worked in dive shops all over the world and for lots of people. And when the shop closed here, it was just a sort of like-minded decision to carry on. People like Andrew have come across, and Steve have asked us, could we facilitate a trip to see if you like-minded keen divers want to come over and enjoy the freshwater diving over here. So the intent of this is that the first one that we're presenting to you might be a little bit clunky, but we're going to open it up and ask you questions. But over the next sort of months, years, we hope to facilitate an open corridor where if you guys are, let's say, open water right now, we can plot a pathway with Andrew and his team there so that you can see where you need to be to start basic cave and advanced cave, and then give you opportunities to come back on trips to not only train, but improve your diving and get the guides in and help you book, get into all the dive sites that you'd like to do, and really try and facilitate you guys to use Mount Gambier as one of the destinations that you come onto over many years. And then together with Sam, develop the people in the shop there so that they've got some real skills to go back on. Something that we've been talking to Andrew about is to be able to deliver theory into you guys. Sam is an active CDA instructor, so he's able to do things like the line drills or cutting skills and then reiterate that with you when you come here. So one of Andrew's instructors can help you in the car park, blindfolded, as Sam's zoomed into you, and we can actually make it a little bit more interactive. One of the challenges that we found with the last things is trying to get everybody through in 5 days from a course, from not knowing what they need to do to be competent cave divers. So trying to work with people out into the community to make it sort of easy to get to. If you knew any of the guys in the old game, that's pretty much that conversation done. We like to interface and be nice and friendly with everybody. We like to be open about where we want to go, and hopefully open up a really solid avenue for Mount Gambier diving. Sam is looking to come over and work back here. He's been a cave diving instructor here previously, and Josh runs the habitat accommodation, which is where the gin used to be stacked around and where lots of sort of drinks, and the central hub for sort of cave diving in the mount. So I'll put it over to Sam now. Sam's going to talk you through the training opportunities that we have and the prerequisite training, and then he'll go into Josh, who's got a small presentation, and then we'll just come back and chat to me. But in short, Dive Experience is here to facilitate all of the local operators and try and give you a positive experience when you get here, and take everything out the loop from getting from the airport to the dive sites, back out and back home, and try and facilitate you guys to have an enjoyable time when you're here. So Sam here, you ready to go, my man?
Perfect. Well, not morning, evening to you lot. Hope you're all well. As Darren's already introduced me, I am an active CDA instructor. I am currently based in the UK, but we are pushing for me to be coming out to Australia to hope to be able to work with you all to get through your training. I'll say there's quite a few of you here I've known from before, whether it's been from a trip to Australia or even to Florida. So I started cave diving myself out in Florida. Have been cave diving in Florida, Bermuda, Australia, and a few other countries around the world as well. So I've got a bit of experience in a few different cave systems that we've got. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about through my presentation is about the actual training that we're going to put you through, what you can expect from the training, and at the end I've got a few good photos and a couple of videos and that to show you about of what actually you can expect from the training as well. So all the training that we will provide with you will be through the CDAA, and then we can co-certify that through TDI. Within Australia, most access to the caves in Australia is through CDAA, which is the Cave Diving Association of Australia. And they've been around for a very long time, and they are the ones that have gained access and worked alongside with the government to give us access to all the caves that we have, from just in Mount Gambier and also in the Nullarbor, and slightly further up north as well, where we have a few around Sydney as well. Obviously, a lot of us are international travellers and we want to be able to use our certs all over the world. The CDAA is recognised, but the TDI certs are actually recognised much easier when you start heading to places like Florida and stuff like that. So what we will be able to do is co-certify you through those courses. To give you a bit of an idea of what that would mean in terms of the co-certifying, the first entry-level course that any of you that are coming over to do would be your basic cave. So with co-certifying that over, you would get certified at the cabin level, and then once you gained some more experience, we could then upgrade you into your intro to cave. So you can kind of see they don't purposely align themselves, but that is kind of the way that our courses are kind of structured. A really nice thing with doing your training through the CDAA is actually classed as providing the highest level of cave training. As you can see there, we have our advanced cave level. That advanced cave level is the only cave training in the world that actually teaches you to remove cylinders to actually enter into a cave. A lot of other organizations teach you to be able to remove cylinders to exit, but CDA is the only ones to allow you to actually go into a cave with removing cylinders as well. If at all during this presentation anyone has any questions, just feel free to holler up and I'll try and answer them as I go. So for those of you that are interested in actually doing your basic cave, on the left-hand side, this is the requirements that we have in our training manual. So you can see on there, it's just an advanced open water diver with 50 post dives. totaling 25 hours. A lot of you might be thinking that that's not actually that much experience that you need to be able to get into this, and you would be very true. As Darren mentioned earlier, I've had students that come with this much experience, and trying to get them through their course in those 5 days is quite a challenging feat, one for myself as the instructor and as the student. You are working your ass off the whole time during that, and obviously it's a fantastic bit at the end once you are certified, but it is a lot of work. So what we recommend, and we've been talking about, is to actually be able to get the most out of the course when you're coming over doing an international trip. Obviously, you've got such a limited time there, it's going to be hard for you to constantly keep coming back if you need to carry on with the course. So actually having your deep diver certification, because on there as well, you'll see that you do have to have at least 5 dives over 20 meters. But all of the basic cave sites that we actually dive in are averaging around 25 to 35 meters. So you're going to be going deep anyway. So having that experience and having that certification to actually allow you to get to that depth is a really key thing to be able to have. As part of your training as well, you're going to be using 2 cylinders, whether that is back mounted doubles or side mount. So we strongly encourage that you have either had experience in that before. So that could be doing your intro to tech course if you wanted to do back mount, or your technical side mount diving course if you're going into side mount. I would again strongly recommend, if you're coming over to the Mount to do your training with us, go towards side mount. The reasoning for that is we're not like Florida, where we have really nice big open cave systems where you've got rooms the size of the dive shop. We have much smaller, more fragile caves because they're much younger. So being inside mount, you're in a much better profile. You also have the plus side of having access to your cylinders the whole time. So when you are in an overhead environment, you're in a much safer position to be able to control the dive if you do have any problems. Again, mentioning about our slightly deeper profile, if you are Nitrox certified, that can obviously allow us to be able to use Nitrox to be able to help keep our dives as safe as possible. And as Andrew has already shown us, we can all just take a picture and send it to him, and he can get us sorted with a dry suit, which I think I might be doing after this. I'm needing a new one. But our water temperature year round is about 12 degrees, which for us is quite nice. It doesn't change too much. But being in the water from a minimum of an hour to up to 2.5 hours, a semi-dries doesn't normally scratch it. So I definitely recommend having experience in a dry suit. If you're looking at carrying on from your basic cave and obviously heading into the next levels above that, into cave or advanced cave, actually having experience in technical diving, so your advanced nitrox and deco, because our sites are deeper, you're looking at 30, some can push down to 40 meters, you're going to go into decompression. If you're not certified on that, you're then going to be having to cut your course short, your dive short, and you're only going to be getting a 10-minute dive in some sites. So actually having that experience beforehand is something that I strongly recommend. If it's something that you're looking at, so obviously talk to Andrew, or again, it's a good one to always put in towards with your caving there. For those of you that have already been with us, who already have their basic cave, obviously you guys are looking towards your next course. So just to remind you of what you actually need to do to complete the prerequisites for that. So you need to do 20 basic cave dives, and a reminder that needs to be in 2 different sites, which is obviously quite easy. You probably want to be experiencing a few different sites out there. And that's another thing that we will really focus on when you're coming out doing even your basic cave course with us, is that you're going to get experience in a lot of the different sites out there. We're not, just because it's easy for us to go to a single site, I'm not just going to make you jump in that site the whole time and that's all you're going to dive. We've got at least 5 to 6 basic cave sites that we can explore, and depending on access and what the weather might be doing, we will try and fill as many of those as we can. I'm sure Andrew would like to remind you, or we'll talk to you guys a bit about one of our sites called Gordon's, which is where you do all of your beginning training of this. he will be very pleased that you don't just dive in that one. We do get you a bit more experience in a couple of other sites as well. So we've talked a bit about your equipment. Really key thing again that you need, we're going to need your thermal protection. So as we've said, a dry suit. A lot of this equipment is very similar to what you would need if you're technical diving. So if you guys are already at that level, then you should hopefully have most of this equipment as we go already. So I'll just quickly go through this. Obviously, we need a primary and a backup mask. Fins. If anyone turns up with split fins, I'm going to be having a really strong talk with Andrew. We then need not just one, but we need 2 cutting devices, 2 dive computers. If you don't have 2 dive computers, it's either a backup depth gauge and time gauge. But so in this day and age, I would definitely recommend just going with 2 dive computers, ideally of the same model, because then you can map the same dive profile off of them. So you then have a massive redundancy there.
Sam, if the guys don't have 2 shear orders, they're banned.
Ah, okay. Well, then we're sorted.
I'm jumping for the mute button. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
We obviously then need a BCD. With your BCD, it only needs to be a single bladder, assuming that you're wearing a dry suit, because we then have our backup buoyancy device there. A regulator set, whether it is side mount or back mount, needs to have at least 2 first stages and 2 second stages, and it is required to have a 2-meter hose. There is a lot of cave divers out there that still like to use the short hose system on both back mount and side mount, but the 2-meter long hose is actually a CDA requirement, so you will not be able to be certified without having that long hose. Obviously, we then need our inflator hoses and then a pressure indicator, whether that is a SVG or transmitters. Obviously, transmitters are getting better and better nowadays, and from even the few people that I know on this call, quite a few of us are using transmitters now, and they're extremely reliable. We then have to have, obviously, our 2 cylinders, whether we're doing side mount, back mount. If you're doing back mount, it has to be an isolated manifold. Obviously, quite hard to have an isolated manifold on side mount, so we'll be having our independence there. Your primary torch, that needs to be able to survive a whole day's worth of diving. So our dives are between an hour to 2 hours, and we try to do 2 to 3 dives a day. So you either need to be able to have the capacity to change the battery over, or have multiple settings that can extend the battery life out, so it can survive the day. Because if your battery dies during training, it's fantastic for me because we get to do a blackout skill, but then that is diving done for the day unless you have a backup light. So we then need 2 backup lights. I've put slates and or wet notes. My personal opinion is both. You have slates on your wrist, and then you're going to have some wet notes in your pockets for your pre-planning of all your dives. During the basic cave course, you are not required to have your own primary reel. The instructor will be supplying that. If you are heading through cave and you want to be increasing, I strongly recommend having your own, because one, we can use it during the course. And then, as Darren mentioned earlier, when we're doing the theory online and stuff, you can actually have practice yourself with your own gear, actually getting used to that. And then you can carry on from there. For your basic cave, again, you're only required to have at least 1 spool, and we would class that as your safety spool, and then some personal line markers. At the basic cave level, we are not massively into using the personal line markers, so you would only need a single cookie. We would not be using arrows at this time, but it is things that we will be discussing during the course, so having them and understanding how they work and everything is always a plus to have. And once you have all of that gear, you'll hopefully look as good as that guy in the right-hand picture. Perfect. So the way all of our courses are structured through the CDAA is as follows. We can do the theory session. We'll be doing sections online and in person. We then do land drills. Again, we'll work at trying to do some of these online, working together with all the instructors that work through Global Dive to be able to work together with that. And then we will also do some more of them once we have you here in person. We then have our 3 what we call controlled water training dives. So this is where we're going to be introducing all the new skills that you need. And we do that in our site called Gordon's. Gordon's is used through every course that we do. It is a fantastic site for that. It has plenty of tie-offs, it has an overhead zone, and it has plenty of silt that you need to learn not to stir up. If not, I can't remember, pretty sure one of the guys on this call actually had their head buried into the silt. So they did kick it up a few too many times. So we've got that place that allows us to have problems that we're not going to destroy a fantastic site. So it is a really nice training ground. At the end of those controlled water training dives, we have a skill assessment dive, or as some others call it, is a stress test dive. I do not like to call it the stress test dive. What it is this is a dive that we complete before we head into our open sites or our supervised site dives to actually put you through and make sure that all of the skills that you've learned, you know what's going on before I put you into a sinkhole or a cave. So I can then have the confidence to know that when we're there and we're doing our supervised dives, you should know how to deal with those different situations. And then as I said, from there, we then have our supervised site dives. And we have 3 minimum. I would tend to aim for 4 to 5 dives to make sure that you guys are getting the experience, especially as you'll be coming over specifically for the course. We should hopefully have a bit more time to actually play and get you a bit more time in the water there. So that is pretty much exactly how the whole course and structure, everything works. So you can see I've got a couple of pictures here from a few of the guys that have been through the course. Got down there in the bottom left-hand corner, that's actually the picture from the group of us that we had over in 2019. And on the right-hand side, you can see that is some of our land reels there that some of my students have gone through, actually practicing how to use their reels during it. So that is the end of my presentation. So hopefully you guys have got a bit of an idea about how our training will be processed. What we're hoping for is obviously when we're hoping that you guys will be coming over, that I will actually be able to be on site there training with you guys. We are just working on getting me over from sunny England at the moment. If that's not the case, we then have another selection of fantastic instructors that are going to be helping you, and I'll be working alongside them to make sure that you guys get everything you can from the course. Do we have any questions?
Actually, it's Paulie. I had a question. Way back in one of the earlier slides, was talking about I think movement from into cave and the prerequisite for rebreathers. Yes. I think there was it said something about sort of post the course at least was it 10 hours of open water? Why is it with use of rebreather it's minimum of 50 hours post?
That is if you've not used a rebreather before.
Okay.
So if you didn't use your rebreather for your basic cave course, then and you're wanting to then use it during the cave course there.
Cool. Okay.
So that's fine. As I'm sure Andrew might jump in there, we were talking about this earlier when the guys did come over. A few of them who were very experienced rebreather divers decided that they wanted to do their basic cave course on rebreather. And I will hand over to Andrew to what he actually said.
Yeah. So, and Darren will probably back me up here. We did it because we misinterpreted what the reason that the guys were saying don't do it. We thought it's because they thought we weren't good enough, so it was like a challenge to us. But the main reason is it's just totally, it wasn't needed. It's kind of, it was like an ego thing, you felt like you can do it because it's really hard, but the hard bit wasn't actually the diving on the breather, it was more the access. So we're not going to say you can't take a rebreather, because obviously we would, we did it, but we're just going to say we don't recommend it. You're much better on side mount or twins next, just because of ladders and stuff like that. And you're in, a lot of those skills are 5, 6, 10 meters. So it was good fun. I think Darryl will probably agree. We had a lot of fun, but we did make it hard on ourselves just for the sake of it.
Yeah, it was hard work.
Good fun though. Good fun.
And the way the CDA works regarding rebreathers as well is if you do your training on open circuit and you are rebreather certified separately, what they would do is if you can provide proof of certification and experience, they can then endorse you. So they will just endorse you as a rebreather diver to the level below until you've done X amount of dives to then be able to get the experience to be able to do it at that next level. Perfect. If there is no other questions,
I've got a question. I just heard a dog bark, but then Chris has got a cat. Is that a dog like cat or a cat like dog?
That's my dog.
Someone's dog saw my cat.
Awesome, Sam. Well, thanks,
Well,
Sam.
well, good, Sam. You can probably hand over to Josh as it's a host handover. It doesn't need me to interact, I think.
There you go.
Magic. Thank you very much, Sam. Just before I get started, I will add to the whole rebreather discussion, having done advanced cave on my Sidewinder, on my CCR. And a few of you might already know this story, but I did not finish the course at the time, and ended up finishing it on open circuit. And ultimately, the CDAA endorsed me for it later on anyway. It really boiled down to the course itself is very much about doing the skills. It's not about doing it on a rebreather. They treat it as two very separate things. And so if you're competent and skilled in one, that's great. And then if you're competent and skilled in the other, then it's worth doing them separately rather than trying to combine what is already a really hard course by doing it on a bloody rebreather. Tank cave, average depth of tank cave is like 8 meters. So there's not really a huge need for CCR, but some of the sites we'll talk about are a little bit deeper and sometimes it's handier. So anyway, sorry, I'm Josh. It's great to be able to chat to all of you. And it's great to be working with Daz and Sam on all of this as well. We've known each other a few years now, all been through the trenches with the previous shop. And it's nice to be doing something a little bit different and nice to be bringing a few of you folks back over here as well. I believe a few of you stayed here at the Habitat, probably while it was owned by Ryan. Ryan and I are good mates. We discussed during COVID about me moving back to Mount Gambier, and I told him pretty early on that if he ever wanted to sell the Habitat, I'd be up for it. And as it was, he was pretty keen. So I've been the new owner since December. The Habitat essentially acts as a central hub for cave diving in Mount Gambier. Essentially, because there's no dive shop, we tend to see more centralization. Cave divers are generally quite independent characters. So they will turn up, they'll come down from Melbourne or come down from Adelaide and they'll bring their own compressors, they'll camp out somewhere and they won't necessarily interact with the locals. The Habitat is really an effort to try and change that. It's trying to be social, trying to gather people together. We run regular barbecues. We host people here, even if they're not staying here. We basically try and support cave diving in Mount Gambier generally, especially because there's no shop now, but primarily because it's a social activity, trying to bring people together rather than sort of splitting them or tying them to you can only be here because you're buying something. It's very much acting as a community hub. I am going to attempt to share the screen here. I don't know if my little laptop is going to cut it. I've got a short video here to sort of give you a taste of what this place is all about. And so you can sort of see it. If it doesn't work, I'll post a link to the video in the comments, in the chat there, and you'll be able to watch a little bit later on. But this was put together by a good friend of ours, Simon Backman. And Simon's a great dive buddy of mine who comes down quite regularly, who really specializes in videography. So I'll just hit play on this and we'll see if you can, it's going to work. I'm not sure if you folks can hear anything.
No sound again, Josh.
It doesn't actually matter, to be honest with you. It's just a bit of groovy music that Simon's popped on. But this is our lounge area, which is kind of where I'm sitting right now. You'll see the wombat pop up quite regularly. Yeah, we won't get, you can find out about that once you're here. But for fully functional kitchen area, large area for dining tables, we try and have as many folks around as we can. You'll see the walls are covered in maps. So some of those maps are essentially for this area, others for the Nullarbor, and it provides us an opportunity, I suppose, to help plan our dives literally by pointing at where we're going to go on the wall. The rooms are for the most part self-contained, so we can bed 10 in total. That includes a bunk room with 4. There's 2 private rooms, a double room, and then there's a single bunk room as well. So again, the old wombat popping back up. The guy on the left is Will Passos, and he's taken most of the photography of this place as well. So we have a fully functional compressor on site. At the moment, we've actually got 2. We've got Darren's here as well, and I've got a smaller bower system that's hooked up to some banks. So we can do fills each night. We look after guests that way. There's a fully functional workshop area for working on your gear, cleaning rebreathers. And then there's a gorgeous little front yard area that I'm quite proud of, which is basically my contribution to the Habby since I took it over, which is what you're looking at the moment. So up behind me on the wall over here, I've actually got a list of all the different sites that we've got around and what kind of access protocols we've got. So I dive all the different sites with all the different people. So I'm primarily positioned to help people get access to that. Nice little barbecue area that we've got going as well. This is all about to be renovated. And if you folks are looking at coming sort of maybe in the second quarter of next year, we're expecting this will be fully renovated again before you get here. So I will leave it at that. But the short version is the Habby acts as a hub. We launch off for dives. So when Darren is looking after people going and doing recreational dives in Kilsby Sinkhole, they often meet him here. I'll sort out fills for Daz. We'll do briefings here. We'll do training here. We do all sorts of different things here. So it's not just about accommodation. It's very much about acting as a hub for people who are just visiting, people who want to catch up with mates, all those sort of things. So I'm going to stop sharing there so you can see me. But as I said, very much more than accommodation, very much focused on being a community hub, supporting cave diving in Mount Gambier, and especially about trying to find, I suppose, new buddies, new drinking buddies as well, and generally having a good time. So I'm very proud of this place. I'm very grateful to Ryan for selling it to me. And I'm pretty proud of what we've done since I've taken over from him. And I'm really looking forward to being able to renovate it further and support groups like yourselves to come and visit. So, so on that, I don't know if there's any questions about me or the Habby or anything like that.
Just some feedback from our last day. We had an absolute blast in the Habby. It was exactly as you described it, Josh. It was a real hub for us. We were there in winter last time, so it wasn't quite as pleasant as some of the photos you showed us, but it was just an oasis to come home to after we were diving each day. I think some of us cooked, some of us went out for dinner. We'd have a couple of beers around the table there. Didn't spend too much time outside apart from in the dry room there. But the beds are comfortable. It's the ideal place for us to base ourselves while we're in Mount Gambier. I don't think we could find anything better. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And in fact, I think it was an integral part of the trip was the fact that we were based there and were able to use that as it is very central to everywhere we want to go as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. We are very central. That's probably something I should have mentioned. So there is obviously other accommodation in the Mount Gambier area that's set up for cave divers, but it's all predominantly 15, 20 minutes out of town. We are 5 minutes walk from the center of town. So in terms of being able to go to the pub, go out, be able to go shopping and do all those other things, we're very, very convenient. It also means for us, we tend to see a variation in the geography here when it comes to caves. So many of your basic cave sites are sort of just to the south. They're south of town. And that's where the geology, I suppose, has allowed those larger sinkholes to form. the more complex cave and advanced cave sites tend to actually be out to the northwest, in a totally different part, like going in completely the different direction. So it's all well and good if you are cave and advanced cave for you to be staying out that way. But if you are a basic cave diver, you're basically looking at a 45 to 50-minute drive for you to be able to access any of those sites. So by being central, it democratizes it for everybody, makes access easy for everybody, and it makes it, again, that community rather than kind of splitting people out. So like I said, I'm very proud of the place. So
what's your wine cellar like?
The wine cellar,
you've got an amazing wine cellar.
Strangely enough, it's actually one of the renovations. It's the primary renovation project at the moment. So there is a cellar down there. It's never been worked on. It's never been dealt with.
It's not the hole that Ryan was digging, is it?
That's another hole. So we have Engelbrecht's West that runs underneath us here. So there is a cave system that runs right under the town. We are a block away from the Engelbrecht's Cafe, where people go on tours. They go down into the dry cave section, and if you want to, we can go and do dives in there as well. But Engelbrecht's West runs very close to where we are here under the Habbey. And there is a solution tube that is underneath the dry room that Ryan spent a lot of time digging. But the cellar is a different story. The cellar's right under the kitchen here. And I'm in the process of renovating it at the moment so that we'll actually have another space that we can use. So
I think Mez's are sold now.
Good.
Tomo, sign me up. I don't care.
And we'll get a dozen cases of South Australian beautiful Shiraz right away. It can be laying down ready for next year.
Coonawarra is just up the road, so it's easy to organise.
Well, there's a couple of things here which you've kind of reminded me of. One is the size. Obviously, that the capacity of 10 is perfect for us because we really just wanted to bring groups of 8, 9, or 10. Because I think, Sam, is it right? Is 4 the maximum ratio for the cave course, the basic cave?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So the idea is, in a perfect world, what we want to be trying to do is each year take 4 guys who haven't done any cave training, and then the other 4, 5, or 6 spaces of people who are just gaining experience, and then we'll start a bit of the ball rolling with different levels of training. So every year we'll do 2 or 3 trips. We've already got Steve, Dave, and myself fighting over who's going to be the representative of Global Dive to take it.
I thought that was done.
Well, yeah, last year's was. It's my turn next. You're at the back of the queue, mate.
So
and now
it's done
Pete
the full
showed
circle.
interest. Mez is in the cycle now, so
Oh no.
Mr. Cave is known as. But yeah, so the idea is we're going to do regular trips with small groups so that you can actually get your training. But it's not just about the course; it's then about going back and doing some experience dives. And of course, the world's all changed in the last 18 months, but it's really not that hard. From Auckland to either Melbourne or Adelaide, a single flight. The logistics were really easy. It was really cost effective. So it's a fantastic trip. It was a trip that I think people might not realize it, but they could do once or twice a year. No problem at all. Obviously, between Lermontov and Truck Lagoon and all of the Lust for Rust and Shock and Awe trips as well, of course, Pete. But, yeah. So, and also the other thing was the wine tasting. So one of the ideas that I had was we'd come and organise a week's trip and then tag on a week at either Barossa or Clare Valley or something like that. So for those who are interested, or just go 2 weeks in Barossa and don't bother with the caves. Just
One thing I will add is that Mount Gambier is basically a big country town. The food here is pretty exceptional. So as I said, there is a list of all the caves here, but more importantly for a lot of you, there's all the food recommendations for the place as well. So the food, the wine, all those sort of things, they're all pretty exceptional. So again, a lot of folks dismiss this place. They sort of see it as a big country town halfway between Adelaide and Melbourne. But they've spent a lot of time, a lot of energy through the years to trying to develop it into somewhere that a lot of people come and get married here. People honeymoon down here. It's not just about the caves. It's quite a vibrant sort of regional town. So
I can't wait. I mean, I'm so disappointed we couldn't go this year. I was going to come next year as well anyhow. So let's just hope we can pull it off soon.
Well,
Definitely.
the Kilsby's ones, we were able to do that gin tasting there with Graham. But we can combine a few things, and something that is quite popular is a Kilsby's night dive. So you can get
right.
sort of those sort of funky depths that we all like.
And Andrew's on a ban from the Kilsby gin now, I think. Is that right? Well, it was only 2 years though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2 years and 6 months probation.
Hopefully we can give you guys a friendly pathway to be able to sort of come over, and let's say you get everything done, you do all the books, we get COVID cancelled, at least you guys are emotionally involved, you're coming, you train. The sinkholes are not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere soon anyway. So, you know, it's just something that we can build over time and give you guys something different, a different angle to diving. And certainly our town here is growing. The accommodation gets booked out a lot for other sort of activities. It's quite a popular place to come on holiday. It's like the place that time forgot house prices wise. So, you know, on top of the cave diving, there's some excellent cray diving at certain times of year. Ab diving you can do.
In the caves?
No, you can't eat the stuff in the cave. Just down the road. I catch you one of those spiny crayfish. But no, we got quite a large range, diverse sort of area. So it'd be good to have you guys over.
HMA is Adelaide. Is that's in that off Adelaide, is it? Or
no, it's the Hobart that's off there. So if you
Hobart, how did that work out? Tasmania.
Well, the Adelaide is off Sydney. So,
oh my God.
You know, just leave it to an Australian to name.
Classic, right? At least we sank Wellington, although that Canterbury's in Northland. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, the Adelaide of Sydney are our own guys over the other side. They dive that one, and we've got the Hobart. But if you want a rest day and you want a wreck dive, we know the guys there. We can get you out on the boats, and depending on when you come in, like Adelaide at the moment's just been more friendly lockdown wise to guarantee a trip in. And we got shops either side where you can sort of dock in or dive in or get yourself sort of fixed up. And like Josh was saying, we don't have a retail facility per se, but we are registered as an instructor training facility. So we've got an entity that we kind of work around, and we're just trying to have a lighter footprint so we can be around for longer, as opposed to a heavy footprint in a town that's only really sort of summer dominant for sort of traveling traffic. But if we can get teams of you guys around, like this is the first dive experience, we're in 3 countries tonight. And we've been going 18 months, well, 20 years and 18 months, as we say. So 18 months doing my own thing with guys like Sam and Josh helping out. So, yeah, we expect this to be a pretty good avenue. Like we've spoken to guys in WA, Townsville, to do exactly the same things as what we're doing with you guys and enable Australian cave diving to have a slightly softer interface. But that doesn't mean sort of dropping the standards or treading on anyone's foot. And like Andrew's thing is that he's quite a friendly guy. So are we. If you have issues here, we can fix them. As long as we stick together, we can make this a regular thing. So he's like, no. So yeah, I'll hand you back to Andrew. But yeah, I really do appreciate your time. The 2 guys done an awesome presentation on where it's sort of come in, and working with Andrew to find out what equipment or special requirements you need. We'll pick you up at the airport. We'll drop you off there, and you'll go back and tell everyone that you had a great time and come on back. So yeah, appreciate you letting us come in, Andrew. I really do. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Darren. Yeah, thanks Sam and Josh. It's been awesome. And thanks everyone for joining. If you do have any questions and you're just too shy to ask during the Zoom meeting, just flick them through to us and we can pass them on to the guys who are in really regular touch. And yes, thanks everyone. You take care, and we'll catch up with you all later.
See you guys.
Bye bye.
See you guys. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, everyone.